Joining me now is political advisor and commentator CJ Pearson. CJ, this week we had a Democrat politician, Jay Jones, a man who wants to be Virginia's next Attorney General. Well, he was exposed as an unhinged miscreant. These messages he sent wishing death on a Republican colleague, wishing death on his Republican colleagues' children. And yet we've heard very little coverage of this from the mainstream media. The New York Times hasn't touched it. We've heard nothing from plenty of media outlets, including ABC, PBS, CBS, and NBC devoted an entire 63 seconds to the story, CJ.
Yeah, the coverage has been entirely scant, but also so has the condemnation from his fellow Democratic colleagues. This is someone that should not just be ashamed of himself, but should also be called on to withdraw from this race immediately. It's exactly why I reject the entire premise and or narrative that this is a both sides issue when it comes to political violence, because the bullets in this country are only coming from left to right. This is someone who, even in private messages, it doesn't actually even matter, actively wish and imagine for the death of his political opponents, not just them, but also their children. It's disgusting. It's absolutely despicable, and it deserves bipartisan condemnation. But yet we have yet to hear it because the Democrats are more concerned about their political benefit than they are about actually doing what's right.
You're so right. The link between violent rhetoric and violence from the left is undeniable at this point. We've had Charlie Kirk's assassination. We've had multiple attempts against Donald Trump. Going back a few years, there was Steve Scalise. We've had Brett Kavanaugh, attempted assassination attempt there, all leftist activists, and yet this rhetoric does not stop. And despite what this guy is guilty of, a Democratic committee released a statement saying, "We are lined up, 10 toes down, ready to organise, mobilise and deliver voters for Jay and our entire Democratic ticket." So that's been the response from the Democrats. Now, CJ, Katie Porter, another Democrat who wants to be California governor, her car crash interview with CBS has gone viral.
And what I'm saying to you is that...
Well, to those voters, okay, so you...
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. Okay. Thank you.
You're not going to do the interview with us?
Nope, not like this. I'm not. Not with 7 follow-ups to every single question you ask.
Every other candidate has answered.
I don't care.
Follow-ups.
I don't care.
God help California if that's the next governor. She can't handle an interview with Julie Watts on CBS, CJ. How's she ever going to handle an actual hostile interview?
Yeah, you're exactly right. God help California. But let's also just break down the reason she had that breakdown, right? It's because the Democrats never face tough questions. They never face actual challenging questioning from those, in the liberal media. And so she had no idea how to respond. But the question that she even was asked was not even all that challenging. It was simply, a little bit of friendly pushback from her friends at CBS. And so, yeah, you're exactly right. If you can't even ask tough questions, answer tough questions from a journalist that probably is inclined to support you and be friendly to you, how are we going to lead an entire state? It just actually doesn't make any sense. But I think what we saw in that interview is entirely disqualifying. And I hope, again, the Democrats may not be calling on Jay Jones to drop out, but I see a lot of folks calling on Katie Porter to exit the race because of that incredibly poor performance she put on in that interview.
Oh, it was bad, and we've got more of it in Lefties. She was floundering on the simplest question, 40% of Californians voted for Donald Trump. How are you going to appeal to those voters? That was what set her off. It is hardly a hostile or unexpected question. It really was quite a bizarre performance, I've got to say. Now, let's check in with the mayor of crime-riddled Chicago, Brandon Johnson, who thinks Republicans want a rematch of the Civil War.
The right wing in this country wants a rematch of the Civil War. I want that to sit in right now, because the President of the United States of America has declared war on the people of Chicago and people across America.
That's right.
He's more interested in giving billions of dollars to other nations, while farmers in urban cities around this country are literally being destabilized.
I'm lost for words. CJ, how does one respond to that? It's just, does he actually knows what happened in the Civil War? I think he needs a bit of a history lesson.
I think he needs very much a history lesson, because it's not Republicans who won a civil war, just as it wasn't just a few years ago when the actual Civil War happened. It was Democrats who waged that war. But what I would remind him of is the fact that Democrats lost that war. So if anyone doesn't want a civil war, it should be his very party, right? But what he should actually be concerning himself with, the Civil War happening in his very own city, in the city of Chicago, between the Crips and the Bloods and the gangster disciples, right? Like, that is what we're actually trying to combat. President Trump is trying to bring law and order to the city of Chicago. He's actually trying to save Black lives, because on the Republican Party side, we don't actually use Black Lives Matter as some type of tagline or some bumper sticker. We actually mean it. Black lives do indeed matter. And what's happening in the city of Chicago is that Black lives are disproportionately being taken away because of the soft on crime policies of mayors just like Brandon Johnson. And so, of course, it takes a bold and decisive leader like President Trump to step in. That's exactly what he's doing. And I got to tell you, when I talk to people in Chicago, when I actually go to the city of Chicago, people are saying we need a leader to step in, and President Trump is that leader.
Now, CJ, former FBI Director James Comey has pled not guilty overnight to allegations that he lied to Congress. The Democrats and their propaganda arm, the mainstream media, are claiming this entire prosecution is politically motivated and should be dismissed. But CJ, we've heard it time and time again, no one is above the law.
No one is above the law. You're exactly right, Rita. But what I've also heard from a lot of these Democrats is that this sets a dangerous precedent. Let's talk about who actually set this precedent, Rita. Right? It was President Joe Biden, his weaponized woke DOJ that went after every single Republican that dared to cross that administration. I'm talking about Steve Bannon. I'm talking about Peter Navarro. I'm talking about so many more people who were thrown into the gulag because simply they had the audacity to stand up for what they believe in and to support the America First agenda and the America First movement. And so, these tears are crocodile ones. I actually don't believe them at all. And I think that it's like long past due that the left actually gets their same treatment. And maybe that's when they'll realize that, when the shoe's on the other foot, it doesn't feel so good. But I'm not saying that this is even political. This is actually a real issue. If James Comey did lie before Congress, he should be held accountable, because, as you said, no one is above the law. I don't care if you're an FBI director or Clinton, whoever you may be. If you break the law in this country, this DOJ will hold you accountable.
Well, let's hope so, because for too long, Republicans have been guilty of pointing out how Democrats have broken the law, how they have weaponized institutions, but there really hasn't been consequences. So hopefully there will actually be some real consequences for people who have been complicit in that sort of behaviour. Now, this is a disturbing scene on the second anniversary of the October 7 attacks. Let's have a look at what was happening in New York City.
Our work is not done. We must show up. We must show up. Stronger than we did the first October 7th.
CJ, they chanted there, we will show up stronger than we did the first October 7. Congressman Brandon Gill has posted this about that footage you've just seen. He said, importing Islamic terrorists into America is suicidal. They all need to be deported. CJ, the people wanting peaceful Palestine don't seem to be too happy that President Trump is negotiating just that.
It's absolutely disgusting, and all those people in that video should be deported. There is no place in this country for people who are guests to this nation to be siding with a terrorist organization like Hamas. None at all. But what I'll tell you is that, breaking news just a few hours ago, we've seen President Trump actually bring Hamas and Israel to the table, and they have signed a ceasefire agreement. The first phase of it will quickly be taking effect. And so I got to tell you, blessed be the peacemakers, and President Trump is just that. And so, while there are a lot of people apparently who don't want peace, this president has been completely laser focused on achieving it. And I think that we are just inches away from it. And I don't think President Trump will get much credit from it from the left, but I think that if anyone deserves a Nobel Peace Prize, if Barack Obama can get a Nobel Peace Prize, then President Trump has certainly earned his.
Well, yeah, Barack basically got his for being elected. There was not much peace that he engineered for what I could see. Now, before you go, let's have a look at the social media output of the Department of Homeland Security. We are certainly in a new era. CJ, that makes me want to apply for a job with ICE.
I think you're exactly right. And I got to tell you, Ray, this is exactly what I voted for. But I actually want to take a moment to, appreciate the people behind it. Folks like my friends, Isabel Redfield, Micah Bach, who are doing all this incredible work without pay right now because of the Schumer shutdown. And so these people are just patriots. They're continuing to post, continuing to rally the troops, continuing to generate tens of thousands of ICE applicants because of the incredible work they're doing. And God bless them for it, because an America is not an America without secure borders. And they're working every single day to achieve that truth.
CJ Pearson, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.